This is the story of a Berlin palliative care doctor who murdered 15 of his own patients, set their homes on fire to destroy the evidence, and may have killed dozens more before anyone noticed. It is a case of clinicide, the murder of patients by the very healthcare providers trusted to care for them, and it has shaken Germany to its core. And here is the detail that should stop you cold. It was never the deaths that gave him away. Dying patients raised no questions at all. It was the fires. Stay with me because the way he was finally caught tells you everything about how easily he got away with it. His name, under German privacy law, is recorded only as Johannes M. He was 41 years old when the Berlin Regional Court, Landgericht Berlin, convicted him of 15 counts of murder on July 8, 2026, and sentenced him to life in prison with preventive detention to follow. The judge called him a serial killer at the center of an unfathomable case, and the 15 murders he was convicted of may only be the beginning. Prosecutors are still investigating more than 70 additional deaths linked to his care. But to understand how one man could kill so many people and go undetected for nearly 3 years, you have to start with who he appeared to be. Johannes M. was, by all accounts, a beloved doctor. He trained first as a radiologist, then as a general practitioner, before specializing in palliative care, a field devoted to easing the suffering of the terminally ill. Colleagues praised his patience. Families admired his professionalism and his willingness to help. He was known for his humor, his dedication, his warmth, and he was the kind of doctor you would want at your loved one's bedside in their final days. That image makes what he did almost impossible to reconcile. Between September the 22nd, 2021 and July 24th, 2024, Johannes M. administered deadly cocktails of sedatives to 15 people. His method was clinical and efficient. He injected a fast-acting anesthetic in the class of drugs that includes propofol alongside succinylcholine, a powerful muscle relaxant, into his patients without their knowledge or consent. The muscle relaxant paralyzed their respiratory muscles. Death came within minutes. His victims ranged in age from 25 to 94. 12 were women, 3 were men, and some were gravely ill while others were not. One 84-year-old patient was days away from being discharged when Johannes M. visited. Within 10 minutes of his arrival, that patient was dead. And here's where this case crosses from disturbing into something darker. In at least 5 instances after killing his patients, Johannes M. set their homes on fire. He tried to burn away any trace of what he had done. When asked about one blaze that engulfed a patient's home shortly after his visit, his response was chilling. "Don't worry," he said, "this has happened before." In 5 cases, he killed patients while their family members were present in the room. In one instance, he murdered a woman in front of her own daughter. There's a detail buried in this case that, in hindsight, reads almost like a confession years before the crimes. In 2013, Johannes M. submitted his doctoral thesis, and the subject was homicide. The opening line asked a simple question: why do people kill? On page 37, he wrote that he had originally wanted to focus on the killing of elderly people, expecting the numbers to be higher than they turned out to be. He expressed disappointment that his thesis's original goal of studying murders in care-dependent populations wasn't realized. A decade later, he would create exactly that population of victims himself. The court applied the legal term Mordlust, which translates to lust for murder, and that was the prosecution's central argument. Prosecutor Philipp Mayhofer told the court that Johannes M. acted with disregard for life and behaved as the master of life and death. The prosecution stated plainly that he appeared to have had no motive for killing these people other than the act of killing itself. The defense saw it differently. His court-appointed lawyers agreed with the life sentence but argued he did not act for vile reasons. They claimed Johannes M. lived under the illusion that he was alleviating suffering, that he genuinely believed what he was doing was best for his patients. Johannes M. himself said as much during his confession. "Throughout it all," he told the court, "I thought this was the best thing for everyone." He also said simply, I despair at myself." The court rejected that framing entirely. Presiding Judge Sylvia Bush ruled that he had killed not out of compassion or a misguided sense of assisted dying, but out of a drive for power over his victims. A psychiatric expert noted his lack of self-confidence and a possible feeling of power as motivations, while concluding he was fully responsible for his actions. The human cost of these crimes is staggering and specific. One victim, a 57-year-old woman, had been counting down the days until she could watch her grandson start school. A 72-year-old woman had been planning a trip to the Baltic Sea, and her son told the court, "My mother wanted to keep on living." The youngest victim was just 25 years old. Her mother said, "She never said she didn't want to live anymore." And then there's the case that reveals exactly how calculated Johannes M. could be. After administering a lethal injection to a physically weakened woman in her home, he apparently feared discovery, so he called emergency services and lied, claiming he had found her in a condition requiring resuscitation. Then, knowing full well she had a living will refusing life-prolonging measures, he called her daughters and apologized for supposedly violating that will. With the family's consent, artificial respiration was discontinued, and the woman died 3 days later in a Berlin hospital. He manufactured a natural-seeming death using the patient's own end-of-life wishes as cover. On July 8, 2024, his final day of killing, he murdered 2 people. That morning, he killed a 75-year-old man at his home in Kreuzberg. A few hours later, he killed a 76-year-old woman in neighboring Neukölln, and he attempted to set fire to the second scene, but the fire didn't catch. Cure and Crime tells the stories of the people medicine trusted and should not have. If that is a corner of history you want to keep exploring, subscribe, because the way he was finally caught is the part that should worry you most. It was a supervising doctor who finally raised the alarm, flagging 4 patient deaths that coincided with suspicious fires. 9 days after that complaint, on August 6, 2024, Johannes M. was arrested at Berlin's airport as he returned from vacation. The trial began on July 14, 2025, with 35 hearing days scheduled. The prosecution's case ran 255 pages. Approximately 150 potential witnesses were identified, 13 relatives joined as co-plaintiffs, and nearly a year later, the verdict came down: life in prison, with a finding of particular gravity of guilt, the harshest possible outcome under German law. He was permanently barred from practicing medicine, a revocation that, under the German Medical Association, the Bundesärztekammer, carries formal and permanent weight, and it may not be over. Investigators are examining 395 total cases connected to his practice. 95 initially raised suspicion, 76 remain under active investigation, and additional exhumations are planned. Johannes M. is even suspected of killing his own mother-in-law, a cancer patient, during a weekend visit to Poland in early 2024, reportedly by injection. If those additional cases are proven, this becomes one of the most extensive murder series in German history, and Germany has been here before. Former nurse Niels Hogel was convicted in 2019 of murdering 85 patients with lethal injections between 2000 and 2005, with estimates suggesting his true victim count may approach 300. But Germany is not alone in confronting this. In the United Kingdom, Dr. Harold Shipman was found to have murdered at least 215 of his own patients, and possibly as many as 250, making him the most prolific convicted medical serial killer in modern history. His case prompted wholesale reform of British medical oversight. Then there is Charles Cullen, an American nurse who confessed to killing as many as 40 patients across 9 hospitals in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, with experts suspecting the true number may reach 400. 3 major cases, 3 countries, 3 healthcare systems that each failed to stop a clinicide perpetrator before the body count became catastrophic. The question no one in Germany has adequately answered is how this keeps happening. The system that gave Johannes M. unsupervised access to the most vulnerable patients in Berlin has yet to account for how it let this occur or what it has changed to prevent it from happening again. A palliative care doctor works largely alone, in patients' homes, with dying people whose deaths will surprise no one. It is a position of extraordinary trust, and when that trust is weaponized, the victims are the people least able to protect themselves. Judge Bush said the conviction for 15 murders may well be only a glimpse of his many crimes. Johannes M. told the court he intended to cooperate more fully in ongoing investigations, and whether that cooperation reveals the full scope of what he did remains to be seen. But 15 families already know enough. They trusted a doctor with their loved one's final days, and he turned those days into something no one should ever have to imagine. So here is the question I keep coming back to, and I want to know what you think. What disturbs you more, that his doctoral thesis asked why people kill 13 years before he started killing, or that it was never the deaths that exposed him, only the fires? Tell me in the comments.